Have you ever noticed that some people leave your life, yet somehow they never completely leave your mind? Months can pass, you meet new people, you focus on work, family, and everyday responsibilities. Yet every now and then, a certain person unexpectedly crosses your thoughts. Not because they were the richest person you met, not because they were the most attractive person in the room, and certainly not because they spent every moment trying to impress you. That raises an interesting question. What exactly makes someone memorable? Most men are taught to focus on external things. They believe attraction is built through status, achievements, expensive possessions, or carefully crafted words. While those things can capture attention for a moment, attention and emotional impact are not the same thing. Plenty of people get noticed, very few are remembered. The men who stay in a woman's thoughts long after an interaction ends usually possess something much deeper. They create an experience. They make her feel understood, comfortable, emotionally engaged, and completely free to be herself. Those feelings have a way of lingering long after the conversation is over. Today we're going to explore why some men become unforgettable without trying so hard, why authenticity is often more powerful than perfection, and why the qualities that truly create attraction are rarely the ones most people spend their time developing. Once you understand this, you'll stop focusing on being impressive and start focusing on something far more powerful, being genuinely memorable. One of the biggest mistakes men make when meeting someone they genuinely like is believing they need to perform. They walk into a date or conversation carrying an invisible script in their head. Every word is carefully chosen, every response is calculated, every action is filtered through one question. Will this make her like me more? At first glance, that might sound like confidence, but it usually comes from fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of being judged, fear of not being enough as they are. The result is that instead of connecting with the woman sitting across from them, they become focused on managing an image. They stop experiencing the interaction and start managing a performance. The problem is that genuine connection cannot grow inside a performance. Human beings are incredibly sensitive to authenticity. A woman may not be able to explain exactly why something feels off, but she can often sense when someone is trying too hard to create an impression. It creates a subtle emotional distance because she is interacting with a carefully edited version of you rather than the real person underneath. Ironically, the qualities people try hardest to hide are often the qualities that make them relatable. Your quirks, imperfections, funny stories, awkward moments, and unique perspectives are what make you human. When you remove all of those things in an effort to appear perfect, you remove the very qualities that help someone feel connected to you. And without connection, attraction rarely has a strong foundation to grow upon. Many people assume attraction grows when a woman becomes impressed by you. In reality, attraction often grows when she becomes comfortable around you. Those are two very different experiences, and understanding the difference changes everything. When a man is constantly trying to impress, he unintentionally creates pressure. Every conversation feels like an interview. Every story feels like an achievement report. Every interaction carries the hidden message that he needs her approval. Even if he never says those words directly, the energy behind his behavior communicates them. And people naturally feel uncomfortable when they sense someone needs something from them emotionally. The men who leave the strongest emotional impression rarely operate this way. Instead of focusing on being impressive, they focus on being present. They are not trying to prove their value every few minutes because they already believe they have value. That belief creates a different kind of confidence. It is quieter. It is steadier. It does not demand attention. There is a certain emotional weight that comes from being comfortable in your own skin. You see it in people who are secure with themselves. They don't rush to fill every silence. They don't feel the need to dominate every conversation. They don't constantly seek reassurance that they are doing well. This creates what I like to key to emotional gravity. People naturally feel drawn toward those who seem grounded within themselves. Not because they are perfect, but because they are at peace with who they are. And that kind of confidence is far more attractive than any rehearsed version of confidence could ever be. One reason so many people struggle with attraction is because they place far too much importance on surface-level qualities. They spend years trying to become more attractive, more successful, more impressive, believing those things alone will create meaningful connections. While those qualities can certainly help someone get noticed, they are rarely the reason a woman continues thinking about a man long after he is gone. Think about the people you remember most in your own life. Chances are, it isn't because of what they owned or how they looked. It's because of how you felt when you were around them. Human beings are emotional creatures. We remember experiences far more than statistics. We remember feelings far more than appearances. This is especially important when it comes to attraction. A handsome face might capture attention. An expensive lifestyle might create curiosity. But neither of those things automatically create emotional attachment. Emotional attachment grows when a person feels understood, valued, respected, and comfortable enough to reveal their true self. That is why substance matters. Substance is your character. It is your mindset. It is the way you treat people when there is nothing to gain. It is your ability to listen, your ability to empathize, your ability to remain authentic when everyone else is trying to impress. A woman may admire a man's appearance, but what often stays with her is the feeling she experienced in his presence. Because long after physical details begin to fade, emotions have a remarkable way of remaining. And the men who understand that are often the men who become truly unforgettable. There is another idea that many people overlook, and it is what I call the art of allowing. Most men approach attraction as if it is something they must force into existence. They believe that if they say enough clever things, send enough messages, and do enough to prove their value, attraction will eventually appear. But attraction rarely responds well to pressure. Think about any meaningful connection you have experienced in life. The strongest ones usually develop naturally. There was room to breathe, room to discover each other, room for curiosity to grow without someone constantly trying to control the outcome. That is why trying too hard often creates the exact opposite result of what you want. People can feel when they are being pushed toward a conclusion they have not reached on their own. A confident man understands something important. He cannot force another person to like him. He cannot control how quickly attraction develops. He cannot manufacture genuine connection. What he can control is how he shows up. He can be present. He can be authentic. He can create an environment where both people feel comfortable being themselves. If you're finding value in this video, make sure you subscribe. We have a lot more to cover, and the next lesson is one of the most important parts of this entire discussion. So, let's continue. The moment you stop chasing validation and start enjoying the experience of meeting people, something changes. Conversations become lighter. Connections become more natural. And ironically, the less desperate you are for a specific outcome, the more attractive you often become. Because confidence is not forcing attraction to happen. Confidence is being completely okay whether it happens or not. One of the most attractive qualities a person can have is authenticity. Yet, it is also one of the rarest. We live in a world where many people feel pressure to present a polished version of themselves. They carefully choose what to reveal, hide their insecurities, and try to appear more impressive than they actually feel. The problem is that while this approach may gain attention, it rarely creates genuine connection. When you are comfortable being yourself, something remarkable happens. You give other people permission to do the same. A woman no longer feels like she has to perform around you. She doesn't feel judged for every word she says or every flaw she reveals. Instead, she feels accepted. And acceptance is one of the most powerful emotional experiences another person can offer. Think about the people you trust most. They are usually not the people who seem perfect. They are the people who felt real, the people who could laugh at themselves, the people who were honest about their mistakes, the people who made you feel comfortable enough to lower your guard. And if you're enjoying this conversation so far, take a moment to subscribe. On this channel, we explore female psychology, attraction, relationships, and human behavior in a way that helps you build stronger and more meaningful connections. Authenticity creates safety, and safety creates openness. When a woman feels safe enough to be herself around you, the interaction moves beyond surface-level attraction. It becomes something deeper, something more memorable. And that is often the difference between being liked for a moment and being remembered for a very long time. One of the biggest shifts that happens when a man becomes genuinely attractive is that he stops trying to prove himself. This sounds simple, but it changes almost everything about the way he interacts with people. Many men walk into conversations carrying an invisible burden. They feel they must demonstrate their intelligence, their success, their confidence, or their value. As a result, they spend most of their time thinking about how they are being perceived instead of paying attention to the person sitting in front of them. Their focus is turned inward rather than outward. The problem with this mindset is that it prevents real presence. When you're constantly wondering what someone thinks about you, you're not truly listening. You're not fully engaged. You're simply waiting for your turn to speak or trying to calculate the perfect response. Presence is different. Presence means you are fully in the moment. You're listening because you're genuinely curious, not because you're waiting for an opportunity to impress. You're paying attention to her stories, her emotions, and the small details that make her unique. This kind of attention is surprisingly rare today. Most people want to be heard, but very few people truly know how to listen. When a woman feels that you're fully present with her, she experiences something many people never give her. She feels valued. And people rarely forget those who make them feel genuinely valued. Long after the conversation ends, the feeling remains. That is why presence often creates a stronger impression than any clever line, achievement, or carefully planned conversation ever could. A common misconception is that being memorable requires being fascinating. Many men believe they need extraordinary stories, impressive accomplishments, or a larger-than-life personality to capture a woman's attention. They worry that they are not interesting enough, not exciting enough, or not unique enough to stand out. What they often fail to realize is that people are usually less concerned with how interesting you are and far more influenced by how you make them feel during the interaction. One of the easiest ways to create a meaningful connection is not by becoming more interesting, but by becoming more interested. Think about the conversations you enjoy most. They are rarely the ones where someone spends an hour talking about themselves. The most enjoyable conversations are often the ones where you feel understood, appreciated, and genuinely heard. The other person asks thoughtful questions. They remember details. They show curiosity about your experiences, your opinions, and your perspective on life. When a woman feels that level of genuine curiosity from a man, something important happens. She stops feeling like another person he's trying to impress and starts feeling like someone he truly wants to understand. Of course, that doesn't mean you should never share your own stories. It simply means that your stories should come from authenticity rather than performance. Share experiences because they shaped who you are, not because you're trying to prove your value. Ironically, the men who spend less time trying to appear interesting are often the ones who become the most interesting to be around. Because curiosity creates connection, and connection is what people remember long after the conversation ends. There is something very important to understand about the way attraction develops for most women. Contrary to what many men believe, attraction is rarely a single moment. It is usually a collection of moments, a collection of feelings, a collection of experiences that slowly build upon one another over time. Yes, physical appearance matters. It would be unrealistic to pretend otherwise. But appearance is often the beginning of the story, not the entire story. What determines whether attraction grows or fades is usually the emotional experience that follows. Think about the men women talk about years later. They are rarely describing a jawline, a watch, or a bank account. More often, they describe how that man made them feel. They remember how comfortable they felt talking to him. They remember how easy it was to laugh around him. They remember how he listened without interrupting, how he paid attention to small details, and how he made them feel seen without making them feel judged. This is why emotional connection is so powerful. Emotions create memories, emotions create attachment, emotions create the desire to see someone again. A woman may initially notice your appearance, but what keeps her interested is often the experience she has when she is around you. The men who understand this stop obsessing over external qualities and start developing internal ones. They work on their communication skills, their emotional intelligence, their confidence, and their character. Because they understand a simple truth. Attraction may begin with attention, but it grows through connection. And connection is what transforms a brief interaction into something unforgettable. One of the most attractive qualities a man can develop has nothing to do with dating techniques, clever lines, or trying to become someone he isn't. It comes from building a life that feels meaningful to him regardless of who is watching. When a man has his own goals, passions, interests, and purpose, he brings a completely different energy into every interaction. He is not searching for someone to complete him because he already feels complete. He is not desperately seeking validation because he has learned how to value himself. He is not placing all of his happiness in the hands of another person because he has created a life that already brings him fulfillment. This is what makes a man unforgettable. Not perfection, not status, not wealth, not a carefully rehearsed personality. It is the combination of authenticity, confidence, emotional presence, curiosity, kindness, and purpose. It is the ability to make another person feel comfortable enough to be themselves while remaining completely comfortable being yourself. The truth is that most people spend years trying to become more impressive when they should be focusing on becoming more genuine. Because genuine people create genuine connections, and genuine connections are the ones that last. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Here on Personality Psychology with Isabella, we explore female psychology, attraction, relationships, confidence, and human behavior to help you build deeper and more meaningful connections. And remember this, the moment you stop trying to be the person you think everyone wants and start embracing the person you truly are, everything changes. That is where real confidence begins. That is where real attraction grows. And that is what makes you unforgettable.